Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Supergirl TV Talk. This is the live show where we talk to you about the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm Frank, and joining me is good friend of the show, Robin.
Thank you. I am here to bring Kevin Smith energy.
Hey, attaboy. That's how we do this. Oh, boy. Robin, why don't you tell folks who may not be familiar with you, why don't you tell them where you're from and what they might know you from?
I'm from Vermont. But besides that, I used to co-host on Shoe in their last season. I've done lots of things in that universe. Currently, I'm doing a binge podcast called We Don't Want to Wait, as well as a minute-by-minute podcast called Fright Night Minute. And of course, round 3 with my good friends Derek and Gina. There's other things too, I'm sure, but
I'm sure. But hey, man, thanks so much for joining me tonight because we have so much fun stuff to talk about. I mean, so much material to cover, so much ground to cover, and holy crap! Our good friend JJ Bittenbinders Tim in the chat says Robin needs more weed if he wants to bring that Kevin Smith energy. So.
Yeah, it's true. And I didn't wear my jorts tonight, so.
Well, that's all right.
I'm failing.
That's all right. We love you anyway. Holy crap, man. All right.
Where do we even start?
Where do we even begin, right? Like, holy crap. Okay. So, Flash stuff?
Flash.
I guess we'll start there. So Flash vanishes in Crisis.
Yes, this is a thing that's been theorized for I don't even know how long. Probably ever since Flash 90 appeared on the show. So I mean, of course we listen to Flash TV Talk, and I've just heard for months and months, and it's gonna be Flash 90, and it's like when it happened, I was like, okay, yeah, we a lot of us saw this coming, but the emotion in it, it really hit me. I mean, yes, it was kind of silly seeing him running on the treadmill in those last moments, but then they flashed back to a quick little scene between him and Amanda Pays in 1990s Flash, and that just hit me. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that.
Yeah. So were you a viewer of the original 90s Flash, like back in the day, back when it was originally airing?
Yeah, 29 years ago. I mean, yeah, I was like 2, so I watched some of it.
Yeah, you were like 2. Yeah, that tracks. That definitely tracks. Yeah, you did watch 90210, but you were too young to watch the Flash. That tracks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah. Oh man,
how did it hit you?
That tugged at my heartstrings. Like I wasn't even around. I mean, like, real talk. I was 1 when that show premiered, so I was not. I was not watching that show as it was happening, and yet this still tugged at my heartstrings in a very, very real way. So it was the John Wesley Shipp Flash who disappeared in the Crisis, not our Grant Gustin Flash. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you feel like that? I mean, on the one hand, that's really, really beautiful and meaningful, but on the other hand, we've been watching Grant for 5.5 years now. And we've had this, threat looming that he was going to disappear for all this time, and then it turns out it wasn't actually him who disappeared. I love that he's a paragon and that he has to stick around for the multiverse to be able to recover. But how do you feel about that? That shift of him not actually being the one who disappears after all.
The ship that happened.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Honestly, I think I probably would have preferred to see him. I mean, we see Earth 1 wiped out at the end of this episode, so I think we could have included Barry being wiped out and as a part of that cliffhanger. Like, people that watch these shows, it's like, yeah, he's definitely coming back. He's the star of the show. And maybe some sort of timey-wimey thing. That's when 90s Flash takes over and takes it from him.
Sure.
Yeah, it felt a little anticlimactic in that way, and especially if it's something that's been teased in season 1, I kind of expected it at least to happen and then somehow be looped back. They showed him dying in Crisis in an earlier episode this season, like him I think it was like the second episode of the season, him looking forward to seeing all the different future possibilities. And you see him dying like he does in the comic book. I wish we kind of saw that in this episode.
But reality has been changed, right? We know that reality's been changed because like Oliver didn't go out the way he was supposed to go out. The Monitor told us as much. So there have been some shifts in the way things are going here.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of stands to reason that there would be, that Barry's destiny would change similarly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, as a fan of Dawson's Creek, I'm used to seeing poor John Wesley's ship die tragically. So,
aww.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's not dropping an ice cream this time, and that causes
that.
Spoilers.
That. So we have. I want to acknowledge our friend Burn Notice 56 in the chat, who says that they called it Lucifer. Lucifer was there last night. They did call it. They said, Lucifer is going to be the one that brings back Oliver's soul, and that is exactly what happened. So,
do you watch that show?
I have not watched that show. I love watched that show. Yeah,
I love that. When I heard that he was on the set, I was like, okay, chances are he's probably filming, but just the fact that it was like a Fox TV series, and then now it's like on Netflix. And it's had nothing to do with any of the DC universe stuff. Just to have him all of a sudden show up in the Flash was a trip. And
yeah, man.
There's this whole. I mean, Maze is. He mentions I owe you one for Maze to Constantine. I'd like to know what that was all about. And then he looks at Diggle and says he reminds him of his brother, who is Amenadiel. It was all. Nice little quick shout outs to the show. As soon as I said Earth 666, I was like, yes,
right. Exactly. Yeah.
Tom Ellis is great in that role. So
great. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot like seeing Constantine, because he was what, NBC, right? So
yeah, that's true.
So similar, all under the Warner Brothers DC umbrella, but when these shows are on different networks, you never know what kind of rights agreements they have and how hard it's going to be to do crossover stuff, but very
especially
very cool.
When it's like canceled by Fox and then it's resurrected on Netflix.
Exactly.
Who knows who owns what rights, but wow, so happy to see him.
so happy to see that. Yeah, I'm with you. That was so cool. It is really, this whole event has been like a DC fan's dream. It's been fantastic that all of this stuff is happening to us, like the fact that we get to enjoy this and experience it is just out of this world.
Now, did you watch Birds of Prey?
That was cool, right? Right at the beginning,
we had not only Huntress, who has been teased, but the voice of Dina Meyer as Oracle.
Yeah, that was so cool.
And honestly, that was what I was worried was going to happen to Tom Welling. It'd be just this quick moment, and then he'd just get entire Smallville would be wiped out.
That'd be it. Yeah.
So when that happened to Huntress, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a quick death.
Yeah. But that was really, really cool to get that. That one was, I guess Huntress was talked about that she was going to appear in this, but it's still, that one was, I guess it was talked about less than a lot of the other cameos and appearances. So I don't
think a lot of people remember or had watched Birds of Prey.
That's probably true too. Yeah. It was maybe less anticipated on the whole than say Smallville or Burt Ward or certainly Kevin Conroy or whatever. So,
right.
So that was really, really cool. All right. So, God, there's just so much to break down this episode, right? So, why don't we dive into all that went down with with Lila, right? So
okay.
Lila being Harbinger and being taken over by the Anti-Monitor. This was something that I expected that to be like at the beginning of this event, if I had put money on it, I would have guessed that Lila being revealed as like an agent of the Anti-Monitor was going to happen tonight in the last 5-10 minutes of this episode.
Yeah.
And that we would like see the Anti-Monitor or maybe not even see the Anti-Monitor, but get teased of the Anti-Monitor, become aware of the Anti-Monitor as a real threat like tonight. We found out, it turns out, last night, and we got a little bit of that. Well, we got more of it tonight, right? And we saw her really get taken over.
Were you disappointed at all as a person that's read Crisis? That, I mean, I've read like about half of Crisis at this point. I still have to read the other half. But there was, I mean, Lila was shown as having, it looked like she had some like kind of headaches. Every once in a while, ice cream headaches.
Brain freeze.
But like, you know, in the comics, you know, she was like warred, like her soul was like a battle over it, and she was feeling all sorts of guilt because she knew that eventually she was going to have to kill off Nauvoo, and there was I also would have liked to have heard more of more how the Monitor and Lila were related. Like, she's an agent of the Monitor, okay, so how long? You know, in the comics, he pretty much raised her,
Yes.
and you know, and then, you know, moved on, and then he called her back when he needed her.
Right.
But yeah, were you disappointed at all that it didn't get more into the comics with Lila?
Not disappointed. It's definitely different, right? It's a different take. I mean, we've known Lila for 7 years, or I mean, I remember when she came to Arrow, but it was pretty early on, I think. So we've known her. We've known Lila for a long time. So was I disappointed? No, because we have a backstory on her. We've known the character. We've got, you know, like there's a history with her. So it's, I don't feel like she was sort of dropped into the continuity sort of, you know, last minute like this. So that would make me disappointed. But the fact that it's a character we know and they did, I feel like they've done justice to this.
Yeah.
A different twist, but I like it.
Yeah. If maybe like, I was thinking they were going to say like, you know, she didn't remember her past, or, you know, like she's been living this life as a human, and then all of a sudden she's called, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm the Harbinger, you know, like
she's had this cosmic past that she doesn't remember, but like now it all comes back to her. That's interesting. I like that idea.
And how would that work into like the family unit with Diggle and the kids?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With JJ and all that. Yeah, interesting. They could have handled it, you know, any number of ways. I personally I'm okay with the way they've handled it. I'm not disappointed by it. It's a different look. Here's the whole thing, right? And people have been talking about the ways that they're disappointed with the way that Tom Welling was handled, or even the way Brandon Routh was handled, or whatever. And my take on it is like there are infinite Earths, there are infinite permutations and possibilities, and so out there somewhere in the infinite Earths is a version that maybe is more like what you had in mind, you know, whoever you are, whatever your idea was of, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this is what their history was. Out there somewhere that exists. The characters that were important to this story are not that exact version of that exact character that you have in mind or remember. But that's fine. That's okay. Like, we can compartmentalize this. We can be okay with it. We can enjoy it. So I'm just trying to come to it from a place of enjoying what, like, you know, all right, here's what they came up with and here's what they are presenting to us. Do I like it or not? And for the most part, yeah, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Okay,
well, as a seasoned Smallville fan,
yes,
and you know, obviously I've podcasted about it a lot. I kind of put it in my head, and I definitely feel for people that are like they did not like it at all. But I personally loved it. The way I thought of it was this: we saw maybe 3.5 minutes of a Smallville episode, like that. It was literally taking place in another universe. And this episode would have probably been like season 18. And who knows, this could have been just like in the middle of a 3-episode arc in season 18 where Clark like gives up his powers to be Farmer Dad because he got a visit by the Monitor. Monitor was like, you're going to die. Lois is going to die if you don't give up your powers and stay back. And look, he gave up his powers. Lex showed up and realized he's not going to kill him. So, you know, I think, and who knows, like at the end of the 3-episode arc, all of a sudden he walks into a cave in his hometown and gets his powers back, So that's what I think. It's like, people say, oh, Clark is without his powers. Well, it could have been just for a moment, it's not forever.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I love the words you just said. Smallville season 18. We're like, mwah.
Yeah,
The best
exactly.
words I've ever heard in my entire life. But oh god, I wish. No, man. Like it's just like I'm just trying to. I'm with you. Like there are many ways to like think about it, compartmentalize it, and just enjoy it for what it was. Was it what I would have written if I was writing a Smallville, reunion of sorts? No, it's not exactly what I would have written. Far from it. But do I enjoy it for what it is? Yeah, man, I do. And that's that's what I'm here for. Is like they're never listen. This whole universe is based around Oliver. This version of Oliver Queen, this version of Barry Allen, this version of Kara. It's based around these characters. So of course they're going to be like the paragons, and they're going to be the center focal point of all of it.
Right.
And anything that came before is going to be sort of secondary to these writers.
Right.
That's, again, not how I would prefer it. I prefer Superman be at the center of frickin' everything.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are watching on video can see the shelf behind me. I prefer Superman be at the center of freaking everything when it comes to the DC universe. But, like, that aside, within this universe, I appreciate it for what it is, and it's different than I would prefer, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it. Like, I'll take it on its own merits, and this is a hell of a lot of fun. Listen, if it wasn't for this, Smallville kicked this whole thing off. Then we got the Arrowverse, and because of the success of those things, now we have what's happening right now.
Right.
I firmly see the Arrowverse standing on the shoulders of Smallville. Fully feel that way. But with Smallville being over and this being the DC Comics TV we have today, I'm in support of DC Comics TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's my take.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't know. I would love to have seen like Clark put on the costume, have him totally involved in so much of this. But I think it would have been, kind of cheesy being in an episode of Batwoman. Like Clark puts on the costume, not in Smallville at all, but an episode of Batwoman.
if I had my druthers, Smallville Clark would be like him and Tyler and Brandon would be like teaming up, the three of them, as like the three Supermen working together, with the rest of these guys to take down the Anti-Monitor and all the threats that he poses. That would be I mean, who knows? But I don't think Tom's ever going to wear the suit. So Tim and I talked about this last night, and he was like, "Oh, maybe Tom will put on the suit. You never know." And I'm like, "You do know he'll never put on the suit. It's just never going to happen. God, how I wish it would happen, but I just don't. I just don't think it's going to happen. He just doesn't want to do it. I don't think there is a Brinks truck big enough to give him the amount of money that he needs to put on that suit.
Right. There was also another thing that was, kind of a problem where Clark was really upset in the first episode of Crisis. Tyler Clark, and Kara is the one that has to kind of tell him about hope and all that. And I like that in this episode, Brandon Routh Clark shows up, and then he tells Elizabeth Tulloch, Lois, all about the hope, the reason why, the black in his insignia on his costume, the red coming through. Even in darkest times, hope cuts through it. Hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness. So
that was fantastic as a Superman fan, right? That's what you want to hear out of Superman. And I love that even in the midst of like the Kingdom Come logo and the darkness and everything that he went through of seeing his family and all his friends and loved ones killed by the Joker in an attack on the Daily Planet,
right?
Still, he has hope that shines through, and that like even through the darkness, through the black on his S logo, the red, the light shines through. I loved that. I absolutely loved that.
So I was very happy we got a Superman moment,
yes.
Tonight at least.
I am with you. Hey, let's talk about Oliver and being resurrected and all that went down there. So you've been catching up on this past was it just this season or last season as well of all the other shows? How much catching up have you had to do?
Okay, it was a little over 2 months. I watched, let's see, where's my note? 136 episodes. Since
Good God, man.
I started on September 22nd. I wanted to get caught up for Crisis,
so
and yeah.
So where did you start? Like what season of which?
Okay.
Or I don't know. Like what year were you in when it started?
I was 2 seasons behind on Arrow, and just like 1 season behind on every other show. So, I did watch like a season of Arrow. So basically, I've watched mostly Arrow because, everything else I was only like a season behind, and like, for Batwoman, just like a few episodes behind.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been enjoying it, and I've been really enjoying, this season of Arrow is now like they're just kind of dispensing with all the normal stuff, and it's just been this episode by episode lead up to Crisis. Every episode is tied in with Crisis.
It was basically Road to Crisis.
Yeah. And it's too bad, like Supergirl couldn't have been a Road to Crisis as well. But, like you said on, I think night 1, that, some of it actually was a Road to Crisis, and you really didn't know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they were laying out the breadcrumbs, and we just didn't realize it. But it turns out, yeah, it kind of was a low key Road to Crisis. Yeah.
Was a Ramakan on one of those spaceships? I'm not sure. Who knows?
I don't know. But Ramakan was on Earth 38, and that went bye. So
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I have been quite a bit invested in Arrow of all shows. The show that really kind of got me off the Arrowverse train, getting back onto it, and I think it was really because of the new showrunner Beth Schwartz. Really, starting with the prison arc, has made it a lot more exciting and a lot more interesting, and that's so kind of. I mean, there's a bit of the lovey-dovey stuff. There was a bit of the him being a parent stuff. But also there's been some great action and there's some good drama. So
I'm with you. Arrow has been better this current season and most of last season as well. Better than I've enjoyed it more in these last couple of seasons than I really ever have.
True.
I really came back to loving Arrow last season, and that's really been amplified this season. So. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I love what they've been doing, and I've been really enjoyed the Road to Crisis stuff on Arrow and on the Flash. Yeah, and yeah, it's been fantastic. Are you watching Black Lightning?
I watched the first season of it and never picked up the second season. When I realized I was waiting for the big bad to be defeated in the end, and the big bad didn't get defeated in the end, and I was kind of like, like why do they do this? And I got kind of frustrated and didn't continue with that. Gotcha. And when I found out that he was going to be such like a minor role in the crossover, I didn't feel kind of compelled to. Gotcha. Find out about the story.
Well, if you had 120 some odd episodes to catch up on, I guess adding another series onto it is hard. But,
yeah,
I hear that.
Skimmed through a few of those Legends episodes too. The Supergirl season, I won't go on about it, but when I picked that Supergirl season back up, I was like, oh my god, I dropped off at like the best season.
Season 4?
Yeah, with Whitwer and Cryer. That was excellent stuff.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah. Again, season 4, I think, was like a return to form, especially the back half of season 4.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I love the very politically interesting.
Yeah. The Asian Liberty
very
stuff.
Topical. Yeah. Oh gosh, that was very good. A lot of that stuff is kind of I felt was a little ham-handed. In earlier seasons when they try to inject some of the social commentary, but I thought this season was like just perfect.
Yeah, very well done. I agree with you.
I almost felt bad that Cryer kind of derailed what they had going on when they brought Cryer in, but that stuff was freaking awesome as well.
It kind of felt like two different storylines, like season 4A and season 4B. But hey, it all worked out in the end in my book, so I enjoyed it a whole lot.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you've caught up on the Arrowverse. We get to Oliver now. Oliver's death, Oliver's body resurrection, and now we go to Purgatory to bring his soul back, or try to bring his soul back. And it's Lian Yu, which means Purgatory.
Purgatory.
and it's the look of season 1 Oliver in the hood and like all that. Like he looks like he did in the first season. And I want to acknowledge our friend Tim JJ Bittenbinders here in the live chat. Arrow wouldn't exist without Smallville, but also without Justin Hartley's portrayal. And I have to agree. I 100% agree with that, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Like the reason that this show, listen, no one would have decided, what we should do? A Green Arrow show. Before 2006,
right.
when Green Arrow came to Smallville, Green Arrow was not on anybody's radar. All right, much the same way that like Iron Man really wasn't on anyone's radar before 2008 when Robert Downey Jr. took on the role. Right, like that was not a thing that anybody was really seriously thinking about talking about.
If they got the rights, if they got the rights to Batman on that show, we would have never heard of Green Arrow. We would have been. We would be living in the Batman verse right now.
100%, 100%, totally. So it is. I give so much credit to Alan Miles for bringing that character in, and to Justin Hartley for the portrayal, the iconic portrayal of that character that gave it a chance, gave the character a chance, and made people say maybe he can support his own show. And based off of 1 year after Smallville ended, Arrow starts, and from there this whole universe gets built up. So 1,000% on board with that. And launching off of that is this whole universe, right? And now here we are, the character that spawned this whole universe it dies, and we're trying to bring him back because he is the hero that saved 1 billion souls on Earth 38, and his daughter wants to bring him back, wants to give him a chance. So in doing that, or in trying to do that, they go to Purgatory, and he's not really having it. He's not really psyched about the idea of coming back.
And out steps a guy and who says his name is Jim Corrigan, and I think he says his destiny was to be someone else, to be something else.
Yes, a Spectre.
He almost like does the whole my name is Oliver Queen intro.
Yeah, basically, right.
So you almost see like, oh, this is going somewhere that might be interesting, and something again that was Spectre-related on
sure.
One of your
Ooh, nice. That was a good pun even for you. That's pretty good. Yeah, but we have been speculating about that. Tim was saying that there's a pretty good chance that Oliver becomes a Spectre, that Jim Corrigan hands over the role of Spectre to Oliver, and then Oliver is sort of a looming presence. So for those who maybe are not as familiar with the comics, the Spectre is this, he's kind of the angel of death in the DC universe. He comes to announce death essentially to people in the DC universe, and originally was Jim Corrigan, then was Crispus Allen, for a while was Hal Jordan. We've had that role be filled by several different characters who have died, and like their sort of punishment is to be the Spectre, to be like a living death for some time. One of my favorite versions really was Hal Jordan when he was the Spectre for a time. And if you want to read some great, one of my favorite like moments of the Spectre, of Hal Jordan's Spectre, is during Kevin Smith's Quiver series. It's you can buy the trade paperback. I have it back here somewhere.
Interesting.
But there's a really good run on Green Arrow, written by Kevin Smith. It's fantastic.
Okay.
I highly recommend this. And yeah, there's some great stuff with the Spectre in here, where Oliver and Hal get to have a few moments that are really touching. Solid read, really solid read for anyone who's out there looking for some interesting back reading. during this month that we have to wait before the shows come back.
Well, now I have time to finish Crisis.
Exactly. Finish Crisis.
Catch up on Black Lightning.
Catch up on Black Lightning. First and foremost, like finish Crisis on Infinite Earths, and if you want some good Spectre stuff and just like a good Oliver read, like some solid good adventure stuff, Quiver by Kevin Smith is solid. I highly recommend that. So. Yeah, I have an attachment to the character of Spectre, and so I'm excited that we got Jim Corrigan, and I kind of hope that Oliver becomes a Spectre. That's not, to my knowledge, has never happened in comics where Oliver was a Spectre. But I love that idea of putting a twist on it and having Oliver be the Spectre and having him be the sort of the voice of wisdom that talks to our heroes.
So is he like the ghost of Obi-Wan? He kind of shows up and gives people, but he also, when he shows up, you're worried that he might actually take you to purgatory with him.
Yeah, it's not usually a good thing when the Spectre shows up. It's usually like, oh god, something bad's about to happen. But there are moments where, if I remember correctly, when Ollie and Hal as a Spectre encounter one another, it's at a graveyard. So like it's sort of an appropriate setting for death to be there.
Right.
So yeah, it's not usually a good thing if you see the Spectre. The bad things are probably bound to happen. But I love the idea of Oliver being that voice and maybe talking to his kids, maybe talking to Barry and Kara. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I've been wondering what's the purpose of this, especially in hour 2 when they go to the Lazarus pit. Died. He was happy. He seemed happy with his death. He told his daughter to call her mother, and yada yada yada, and then he died. And then so I've been kind of like frustrated, like going, guys, there's worlds are being wiped out, and you're running around trying to resurrect Oliver. I mean, what are you doing? So I'm glad it's kind of turning into, okay, I mean, obviously they didn't plan for him to be the Spectre, but he's going to probably be a lot more helpful with these Spectre powers, I'm thinking.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I would think, right? I love that I love the idea of him continuing to be a presence and continuing to be a, paternal godfather type figure to this universe and to these friends of his, after he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe, something happens with Jim Corrigan and Mar Novu and there's some kind of a transference of sorts, if you will. I don't know. But I love the idea anyhow.
Was Spectre in the Crisis comic? You don't have to spoil anything for the Crisis comic, but do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I reread the first half.
Yeah, that's about as far as I got.
So I reread the first half before night 1. I was hoping to get through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I read in earnest the first half and then sort of skimmed the back half. I plan to reread the second half in full in this next month before parts 4 and 5 air. But I don't remember the Spectre being a major role in it. Mm-hmm. That said, doesn't mean that doesn't say anything about what they're going to do. Right, they're not strictly adhering to things that in some places, yes, they're strictly adhering to stuff that appeared in the original comic, but they're not sticking to it 1,000%. There have been some pretty major changes, as you'd expect from an adaptation of a work of literature.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I was reading Crisis, I was like, well, there's just random things that are happening. We hang with these heroes for a while. We hang from these heroes for a while. So, this Crisis crossover has been a bit scattered, but honestly, there's just so many characters and there's so many different things we want to do with these characters during the crossover. I was kind of expecting it anyway.
Yeah.
So I had hypothesized that, Supergirl was going to, take the Book of Destiny, not the Pick of Destiny, by the way, take the Book of Destiny and, go mad, trying to recreate Earth 38, is it? Yeah.
The Supergirl is Earth 38, yes.
Earth 38, yeah. and that Batwoman would have to kill her, therefore, creating possibly that famous cover from Crisis.
Right.
Somehow, Tyler Superman comes in and picks her up and cries.
Sure.
Something like that happened. They kind of argued about it for a while, and Supergirl was just like, you're probably right. It stepped away. Do you think there's more coming with that, or do you think that that's cooled off? Like, that's not going to happen?
I don't know, man. I kind of get the feeling that I mean, I kind of get the feeling that was it. Maybe that was the most we're going to get. I feel like if Supergirl were going to die in this Crisis, even if it were temporarily, I feel like it would have happened in this first run of 3 episodes rather than, in part 2 or parts 4 and 5. I'm pulling up, for those watching live on the video, I'm pulling up the cover that Robin's talking about.
Yeah.
Where Superman, is holding Supergirl's lifeless body in his arms. Iconic cover. We lost Supergirl and we lost the Flash in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I do think that if it were to happen, it would have happened by now.
I mean, she still has access to a page out of the Book of Destiny.
Yeah.
Unless the Count of Monte Cristo is the Book of Destiny, and
right.
The page, I was a little confused about that ending.
So Lex. Okay, so why don't we are coming up on. We've been going for a while here. I don't want to keep people too long, but we can kind of maybe run through some good bits and such before we maybe a rapid fire good bits round here before we wrap up. But at the very end of the episode, we did see our so Earth 1 gets destroyed, and I'm sorry, I'm just distracted because our friend Tim, you're getting a lot of shout outs this episode because you're coming in strong with the commentary.
I wish I had the chat in front of me.
Oh, man. Quote, I saw Book of Destiny open for Genesis in college, unquote, Derek Russell. Tim, I love you, man.
Derek, he lives in me.
Title Robin sexy.
Title?
So there's the, all right. Well, the end of the episode sees Earth 1 destroyed and our 7 principal heroes, Paragons, transported to. I don't think it was the antimatter universe. I think it was like a pocket dimension, right? Or was it the antimatter universe?
It was the vanishing point.
The vanishing point. That's what they called it. Absolutely.
This was something that exists out of normal time and space at the end of the universe. It's a Legends of Tomorrow reference, but I'm not sure exactly what episode that might have been. In the wiki I'm looking at, it says first appearance, Legends of Tomorrow. So
okay, right on. All right, so there's that. So all right, so that's what we have. That's what we have there, and that's where they've been transported to. And we see Brandon Routh's Superman start to be torn apart by some energy, and he keeps saying
please fix it,
please fix it. So and we're kind of left on that note.
Mm-hmm.
So that and Lila going all anti-monitor on everybody. That's where it ends. Sorry, I get distracted again. Guys, if you're not watching on the live video, I apologize to you who are watching the video later or who are listening to the audio podcast later because the chat is lit right now. Tim saying, calling the vanishing point the Nexus, and then our friend Cyclone Rachel chiming in to say, you mean the Nexium? Hashtag Allison Mack.
Well, it's all about Brandon.
It's all all right.
I mean, Brandon.
Brandon, not Branding. Brandon.
Moving on.
So that's where it ended, and that's kind of where our cliffhanger is.
Yeah.
And
Literally
yikes.
say, what now?
So what now? Like,
What now?
all of the Earths were destroyed. All of them. Not like a handful left over that we're going to merge together. They're all gone.
Right.
Which is, yee. I do love knowing, and this is not a spoiler because it was discussed on the Night One's Crisis Aftermath with Kevin Smith on the CW. Mark Guggenheim revealed that episode 4 of the crossover, which is the Arrow episode, Mark Guggenheim co-wrote with Marv Wolfman, who wrote the original Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Ooh, interesting.
And they're going to dive into the secret origin of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor.
Okay.
So there's going to be some really, really, I think, some really, really critical, pivotal stuff covered.
Where did the lamb chops come from?
Exactly.
What's with the armor? Why that hairstyle?
The tough
what
questions.
What is that hairstyle?
The real questions. the questions that a man with no hair really wants the answers to. So
I'm thinking that maybe you pull those off, the little stripy things.
We'll get all those answers January 14th. So that's what we have coming. But Oliver declining, being like, I pass on coming back, feels significant. And it feels like maybe that's how the whole, excuse me, how the whole Spectre thing might come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this cliffhanger? What are your thoughts on where they left us? Do you have any speculations about where we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Which is the well, it's got. I mean, I'm thinking that we're going to have like 6 Paragons having to make a deal with Lex Luthor, and things might end up going back to normal. Or merged or what have you. But I'm thinking Lex is going to definitely profit from it in some way, either by presidency or just by real estate alone.
It's the one thing they're not making any more of.
That's true. Did all the ships approaching Earth 1 get wiped out too, by the way? I mean, I'm assuming they did, right?
I think everything in
everything's gone
in the Earth 1 universe is wiped out at this point. Yeah,
except for the Vanishing Point and the spiritual world.
Right. Well, because those are outside of that. Those are a different universe, or outside of the Earth 1 universe. So yes, those are safe, and the antimatter universe still exists. But
right.
all of the all of the other universes are gone. So yeah, Lex comes in the place of Brandon Routh's Superman, and he is, instead of the Book of Destiny, he is holding the Count of Monte Cristo.
It's the prisoner finally gets his payback after many years of being held prisoner. It could be something to do with that. He actually. I mean, it could have just been a play on the fact that the prisoner in the Count of Monte Cristo comes back and is a new identity, and then slowly takes revenge against them without them knowing who he is. So it could have just been a commentary on the fact that he was in disguise as Brandon Routh's Superman.
I like that one. I
haven't ever read it. I just read it, but I saw the Jim Caviezel movie.
Listen, normally Tim, as an English teacher, sits in that seat and talks to me about the literary implications of things, and that's a really good analysis you just threw down there. So I like that a whole lot.
I usually, when I refer to books like Count of Monte Cristo, I usually come off like a dumbass. I'm sorry about that.
Coming off like a dumbass. Title of the sex tape.
All right. Can we do some good bits? Or we?
Let's do some good bits for sure.
All right. I'm sorry, guys. I texted Frank today. I was like, can I please just throw out some good bits from the previous nights, and I'll run through them really quick. Okay.
Yeah, do it, man. I want to hear them.
We've been thinking about this new show, this new Superman and Lois Lane show, and it was really interesting to hear in night one that he's already fought Doomsday. He's already fought Zod. He's already fought Luthor many times. So I'm wondering, what kind of new adventures this show is going to have. Also, thinking about how Argo City and Allura were killed off, that was Earth 38's Argo City and Allura. So does that mean there's an Earth 1 Argo City and Allura?
Probably, but the thing is, that was probably just destroyed tonight too, because that whole universe was gone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But the whole thing with Crisis is that, well, I mean, spoilers if you haven't read the original Crisis universe, but the whole thing is that all the infinite Earths were merged into one Earth called New Earth, right? And all the universes that went with that one Earth merged into one new universe, and so there was one singular universe going forward. So everyone who died in the last 3 nights, right? They're all perfectly valid. They will come back as a new version of themselves. Burt Ward and Oracle and everybody else comes back as a new version of them that maybe has no memory of ever not having existed.
Right. Okay. Kelly Olsen, are we thinking she's going to be Guardian? You guys didn't mention that. I was just wondering if she got the shield, so I'm wondering, are they setting her up to be new Guardian? Or
on the one hand, I'm pretty much over Guardian. On the other hand, that's a pretty cool idea you just threw down there.
Yeah. As a fan of DC Titans, I love the fact that they, had, a-hole Jason Todd and Aquaman / Hawk, Alan Ritchson.
Hawkwoman.
Hawkwoman, yeah. Also, was very, very happy to see Griffin Newman as the trivia host. He is not only a host of one of my favorite podcasts, Blank Check, but he's also Arthur from The Tick. So there's another comic book reference that got landed in there.
Layers. There are layers to this cake.
Okay, so my night 2 things were so Kate recognizes Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne. Now, even though he is evil Batman, murder shorts Batman.
Yeah. Krypton reference.
Does that mean that the Batman in Kate Kane's universe looks exactly like Kevin Conroy, which means that maybe we'll have Kevin Conroy come back as good Bruce Wayne. If you were especially disappointed by Murder Batman.
I do like that idea. I like the idea that, well, okay, I assume that her Bruce Wayne is younger than him. I assume.
Yeah, she could have recognized him as Bruce?
Yeah. Like, you look like Bruce 20 years from now or whatever, right? Yeah. So I like that idea.
Why do you look like John Glover?
Ooh. I love, that's magic right there, baby. I like that idea. I like the idea that she recognizes him as you look like him, but a little bit older. And I love the idea of him, they could make him look a little younger, and they could or that they could make him like a Batman Beyond, Bruce.
Yeah. Yep.
Who hasn't murder shorts to anybody, which would be the ideal scenario for me and for Tim. I'll speak for Tim. I know that all he really wants in this world is for one screen portrayal of Batman to not have killed somebody in cold blood. So, and I'm with him on that. So that'd be dope. I'd be down for that.
A little bit of dialogue in night 2. They talk about the Book of Destiny. It's leaned on about the Book of Destiny, but Novu also mentions that Felicity has the Tome of the Guardians. And so I looked around on the internet. What the heck is the Tome of the Guardians? And of course, I only didn't go past the first page of Google. So
because why would you?
But however, the old dwarf guys on the planet Oa are called the Guardians of the Universe.
The Guardians of the Universe, not to be confused with the Guardians of the Galaxy over in Marvel. The Guardians of the Universe are the guys who founded the Green Lantern Corps. Right.
Now, lots of rumors that Diggle might be a Green Lantern to come. And this is a reference to this Tome of the Guardians might be a reference to the Guardians of the Universe. maybe there's some sort of Green Lantern payoff. They mentioned that there's a Crisis comic CW style coming out, and I've seen that. I think Mark Guggenheim said that Felicity fans would be very happy with this.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm wondering if we're gonna see in comic form Felicity on the planet Oa. I don't. Who knows?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So there is a Crisis tie-in comic coming out next week as we record this. So that would
Walmart
be
apparently.
Is it a Walmart exclusive?
I think it is.
Okay. So
and then they release it wide. I think like a week later or something like that.
Okay. So it's a like window exclusive. So week of December 16th, 2019. I would assume, comics come out on Wednesdays. I would assume that's coming out the 18th because that's the Wednesday of that week, assuming they follow that schedule. So that would be the that's when that's coming out. I'm really excited to read that. There are some pages have been not leaked, but released in advance, right? Yeah. As a promotion, and I'm excited by a lot of what we've seen. I guess I'll just say fans. It's out there. It's not a spoiler. It's been released officially, But fans of things like the Fleischer Superman will be excited to see certain things,
or might be appalled. Who knows? It depends how much you think. Is this the Fleischer or is this
a Fleischer?
A version. This universe is.
Yeah. Exactly. But Earth 40, whatever. But I'm pretty excited to read that. And so if Guggenheim, what Guggenheim says is I take that seriously. And if the idea that Felicity fans will be excited, and what you say about Oa, and last year during the Elseworlds crossover, we did get a quick nod to Diggle looking like someone named John who is a Green Lantern. So a John Stewart reference, and John Stewart, I've said I've been on record saying John Stewart is one of my top 2 all-time favorite Green Lanterns. Him and Hal are my 2 Green Lanterns for sure.
My favorite is Stephen Colbert, actually. Sorry. Is there an opposite bit, an unringing of a bell?
Me pouring more scotch. That's the unringing of the bell.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep you guys any longer, but one last good bit. I love the fact that the scene where we see Tyler Clark and Elizabeth Lois walking in Metropolis and seeing on the billboard the death of Superman, basically. I thought it was cool because I've had a great vacation in Vancouver, went to all sorts of different Smallville filming locations, and I suggested to any fan of the CW superhero shows, go make your pilgrimage. It's well worth it. It's a great place. But when they're walking down the block, I noticed, they're walking by Luthor Corp. And then they look up, and the billboard was literally pasted on the Marine building, which is the home of the Daily Planet from Smallville.
Yep.
And also on that block is where they usually film the exterior location of CC Jitters for your Flash fans. So it's kind of cool, that location.
I didn't realize that was the same block. That's cool to know.
That is the same building. Like you walk around the corner. CC Jitters is on the corner. You keep walking, and then there's the doors to the Daily Planet. So
and then the old Luthor Corp building from Smallville is right next door to that, right?
Yeah, so right across the street. Yep. So that's where they were walking by. I was like, those steps look familiar.
Question for you, since you've been to Vancouver, was the building we saw in Night 2 as the Daily Planet, was that the same building as the Smallville one?
I don't think so. I think they were looking for a more classic, Superman skyscraper. I'm wondering if there's that building in New York City that they used for the original movies. I can't remember the name of it, but you can walk in and there's a big globe on the floor that you can walk around, and it's, they used it as the entry spot. But
I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it
not
was
sure.
the New York Post or the New York Daily News that they used in the original
Yeah,
in the
something like that.
78. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a real newspaper building, I believe.
Hmm. Yeah, I
At
think it
least
says
for
like
the
News Corp on the front. I forget.
News Corp building. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm a New Yorker. I'm showing my lack of memory there on that piece of trivia there, um, but
Oh,
yeah, that
across the race. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. All right. Um, any other good bits? Any other things we want to call out here? Anything from tonight that we haven't covered that I mean, there's a lot, and again, for those listening and those watching, a full podcast is coming later this week.
Yes.
Tim and I will break it down with Derek Russell actually
Awesome.
later this week. So,
So, even more bad jokes coming your way.
worst jokes, so many worst jokes,
Oh my God.
and I don't think
Don't
Derek's.
unsubscribe. It'll get back to normal after the crisis. Or maybe it'll be all gone. Maybe that'll be the last podcast for Supergirl TV Talk.
Yeah, no. The wave of antimatter will come after that, and we'll just wipe it all out. And then we'll be reset, and no one will remember that any of this ever happened.
Good bit for night 3. I
Yep.
love when Ralph Dibny comes in and says, "Holy All-Star Squadron," and I think it was Frost who says, "Forgive him, it's his first crossover."
I
Love the meta joke.
Another meta crossover reference. Last night was Sarah. This night was Frost.
Yeah.
I know. I love that stuff. I'm seriously. I love those very meta references. I really do. It's very cheesy, but I very much love it. It's what makes this stuff go round. We did get a comment in the chat here, reminding me that Spectre may not have appeared in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but Spectre did play a role in Infinite Crisis, which anybody who wants, if you want to like bone up on the DC universe,
Okay.
easy killer. If you want to bone up on the DC universe,
And he goes for it again.
all right, you need to. Crisis on Infinite Earths is sort of where Crisis on Infinite Earths took all the disparate, various continuities that had existed since the beginning of DC Comics in the 30s. There were lots of different, in the Golden Age and the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, there were lots of different things that just didn't add up, didn't tie together. Superman being named Kal-El with a letter L versus Kal-El with an EL. Little things and big things, ranging all sorts of things didn't line up, and so Crisis on Infinite Earths happened to merge those things together, make it all make sense. Like, let's wipe everything out, let's erase the slate, start clean, do it all over again, and that's what that did. 20 or so years later, things had gotten messy again. So it took them like 50 years to realize they needed to wipe things out. Another 20 or so years later, they realized, we did it again. So they
Clean the blackboard.
cleaned the blackboard again. We did it again. Sorry, guys. So they went back to the beginning and wiped it all out and started fresh again. And that's where you get your Infinite Crisis. And this is right about where I got on board with comics. This is right about where I started. I was old for it. I grant you. I was not a wee lad anymore by the time this came around. I was like in college, but that's where we were at. So I highly recommend Infinite Crisis, and then I very strongly recommend. And this is Final Crisis is sort of the last chapter in that whole long, decades long saga, and I do recommend that. But actually, a little bit off the Crisis train, and I'm going to try and do this live, and this is a dangerous thing for me to do. I'm going to reach back here and grab Identity Crisis, which is, although it has the name Crisis in it, doesn't necessarily fall in line with Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis. Identity Crisis is quite possibly my favorite graphic novel ever, and this one stands alone. You can read Identity Crisis in a vacuum and not have read anything else. I would say that Crisis on Infinite Earths and Identity Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis are sort of a part 1 and a part 2 deal. Identity Crisis is you can read this on its own in a vacuum. If you know who Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, etc., Martian Manhunter, you know who they are, you're fine. If you just know who they are, if you've ever watched an episode of the Justice League animated series or whatever, you're good. You got it.
Cool.
Identity Crisis, written by novelist, like mystery novelist Brad Meltzer. One of the finest examples of comic book writing I have ever seen. It's the thing that I would hand to someone and say, "Do you want to know why I like comic book superheroes? Read this book."
Cool.
This is just a mystery novel with superheroes as the protagonists, and it's
sold me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's absolutely
all these huge DC crossovers are so intimidating.
They are. This is a maybe
But
six
that
part,
sounds cool.
8-part series. Maybe. I mean, it's one graphic novel. It's not super long. It's
Title of.
Yep. Title of one of those, and it's absolutely divine. I can't recommend Identity Crisis highly enough. But I say all that to say there is some great, fantastic source material for all this stuff, and I hope that in the month that lies ahead before we get episodes 4 and 5 of this crossover that I feel has been stellar, I hope that people will bone up and will read a little bit of the stuff that inspired these shows, these episodes, because there's the source material is just fantastic, you guys. I mean, it's outstanding. It really, really is. And I think that between the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Infinite Crisis, and then the Identity Crisis that sort of stands on its own, I really think that anyone listening, anyone within the sound of my voice, will really, really appreciate those books. And I really, really strongly recommend them. I think that they're they're fun, they're inspiring, they're sad, they're moving, they have so much going for them that I really, really think everyone should partake of. So yes, the Spectre does appear in Infinite Crisis.
Okay.
But maybe not so much in Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I will fully have reread by the time we get to the back half of this TV Crisis. Robin, any final thoughts, any closing thoughts, any puns that have been weighing down your heart that you just need to get out before this night can be over?
I don't know if I've said it enough, but I got to say, Frank, I told you I would come running home to you. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for joining me, man. It's been a blast. I love talking to you. We've talked on Shoe Krypton. I don't know if you've been on Supergirl TV Talk before, though, right?
I mean, I talk back to my earbuds, so maybe I have. You just didn't know about it,
as we all do. Yeah, and usually I deserve that back talk, so that's fine. So yeah, okay. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all. Once again, plug your podcasts for everyone who are watching and listening.
Yeah, if you if you're interested in DC CW shows and you want to hear me run my good friend Steph through a Smallville binge watch, check out the show We Don't Want to Wait. We binge watched so many different shows, and we went through all 10 seasons of Smallville in a year. And it was quite the undertaking, but we did it. And now, as penance for that, she's making me watch Gilmore Girls. So if you like those, of course, also with my friends Derek and Sheena on Round 3. And I do a minute-by-minute podcast about the 1985 movie Fright Night on Fright Night Minute. So if that appeals to any of you, or if not, follow me on Twitter at El Robinero.
El Robinero.
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll put links to all of Robin's podcasts in the show notes if you are listening to the audio podcast later on. So please make sure to check those out. I can personally vouch for Robin as a stand-up guy, and not a stand-up comic though, because those puns are. But a stand-up guy. We've hung out several times in person, and always a blast. For sure. So thank you for joining me, man. I really, really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed what you saw or listened to tonight, please, we are part of the Thought Bubble Audio Network. You can find us over at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. That's where you'll find this show and a whole slew of other podcasts that are fantastic and worth your time. You can also, of course, find us at supergirltvtalk.com. That's where all the episodes of this show are, and the links to this show on every single podcast app you can think of are available. We're available patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio if you want to throw a couple bucks at us and help us keep the lights on, keep the shows going, all that fun stuff. We really, really appreciate your support there, of course. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TV Supergirl. Follow us on Instagram at instagram.com/Supergirl TV Talk. Those are all the places you can follow us. Of course, you can also find us on all of your favorite podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Podcasts. Anywhere podcasts are found, you will find this one. So please, please, please search us out, find us, and subscribe there. We will have a full Crisis on Infinite Earths episodes 1 through 3 recap coming up later this week with Tim, my co-host, and our good friend Derek Russell. That will be coming at you later this week, so please be on the lookout for that. Robin, thanks again for joining me. I really, really had fun talking to you tonight. Thanks for hopping on and doing this live show with us.
I told you I'd come running home to you.
You absolutely you came through.
Did I say that again?
You did, and I loved every second of it. So thank you. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in live. Thanks everyone for listening and watching later. And until next time, up, and away.